in this era of AI, what are the foundations or what are the frameworks you think they should be applying to get real outcomes?
How do you then create data catalogs, data products, very fundamental things? Data is the foundational piece. The second thing, when I start thinking about how do I look at cyber, which is security from a DevSecOps standpoint, from when I'm building applications or creating data pipelines, the whole life cycle, to then running it on production, IT operations, compliance. We use a blueprint, call it an XDO. It's about experience, data, and operations. It's experience is where AI and human interaction happens. Very, very important. We're to start to reimagine the X.
Welcome to Discover Dialogues podcast, powered by TechDogs. The world of business and technology is evolving at breakneck speed. AI breakthroughs, digital transformation, and game-changing innovations are reshaping industries every day. On this show, we dive into the trends, ideas, and strategies driving the future. We're sitting down with industry leaders, innovators, and disruptors to bring you fresh insights, bold perspectives, and real conversations that matter. So plug in, tune in, and let's discover what's next.
Today on the show, we're joined by Kalyan Kumar, or KK, the Chief Product Officer at HCLSoftware. Over the past 25 years, KK has helped transform HCL from a services powerhouse into a global software leader, driving innovation through frameworks like the XDO blueprint and his bold vision of services as software. He's a technologist, thinker, and leader who believes in turning the fear of the unknown into the pleasure of the unknown. Let's dive in.
Welcome to another episode of TechDogs Discover Dialogues. Kalyan, it's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you, Vikram. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to the interaction.
Great. Perfect. So, Kalyan, before we get into frameworks, the future, AI, I want to take a step back and talk about the journey that shaped you as a leader today. For the last 2 decades or more, actually, you've been at HCL, building its digital foundation, and then maybe today the steering HCLSoftware. What would want to understand a little bit about the journey?
Yeah, it's been 25 years in HCL. Pretty much started in the year 2000. I think the world was going through a very different kind of emergence, very different point in time, very different start point. Pretty much my second job after spending the first few years in tech. So it's an amazing journey, and I would sum it up in a way that I've pretty much grown or evolved as an individual, both from a physiological standpoint, but also from a psychological standpoint, but also from a career. So it's like a holistic view, pretty much. And I would say I was just lucky enough to be in a fractal organization like HCL, which has sprouted so many different. This thing, when I joined, it was a subsidiary called HCL Comnet. It was all focused around doing communications and networking. Started in helping to telco carrier networks, building ISPs, and venturing into various different things. So pretty much people could say that you stayed in one place for 25 years. I would say that at least I had 8 to 9 different distinct career switches within the same. Sometimes you could be in one org and could end up doing completely different things. So thankful and grateful enough to be here, but it's an amazing journey. And before the current role as co-leading HCLSoftware, before that I was the global CTO and head of ecosystems for HCL Tech. Pretty much set up all that CTO org from 2016 till up to 2024-ish, 2022-ish. Then I had to really start pivoting into this side. Yep. So that's been the journey.
Nice.
And continuously learning every day.
Is there some sort of an inflection point that you would point and say, this is where my path truly shifted?
Actually, quite a few. So I can say that when I first came in, mm, we were pretty much the early part of HCLComnet was mostly into satellite communications, and there was a significant pivot or inflection into how do you build mm, enterprise networks was one big play. So one big inflection point of transitioning from satellite to IP, Ethernet, optical. At that point in time, it was a big technology shift which was happening both in the enterprise as well as in the telecommunications world, early part of 2000s, correct? If you really see, we used to have copper-based connectivity, but that whole pivot into fiber and things like that, there was one pivot. The second interesting pivot was this whole being a cog in the wheel of the entire reimagination of RIM, remote infrastructure management, which is what HCL Comnet, then HCL Technologies, ISD, or what now we call Digital Foundation Services within HCL Tech. That whole journey, that is a big pivot point, and being part of that, interestingly, helping build platforms and build software. So I was like a software guy sitting inside outsourcing world. So it's very interesting. So in that whole journey and trying to build software, OSS platforms, management platforms, big shifts like 2006, 7, we created something which is even predates SaaS. It's like we're operating multi-tenant management tooling infrastructure or management tooling software. Building some of us, integrating quite a few of them. We started, that was one. The 2012, 13, starting to look at machine learning way before AI came in.
Yeah.
So and sometimes necessity is the mother of invention, correct? Because you are in such a hyper competitive, automation driven IT operations world. IT ops has historically been very automation, and all significant infusion of automation existed. Early adopters of AI, machine learning, unsupervised machine learning, then to Gen AI, then to Agentic AI. But that was another inflection point. So being another part of the decision which was triggered by our chairman emeritus, Mr. Nader, and our CEO, CVK, about creating and building a software product business. So being part of the journey at different parts, and we built it with various different routes, and how we culminated today as HCLSoftware. So there's been so many inflection points, and there are a lot of them were first, like doing RIM was being part of something first. Trying to create a management platform to operate distributed infrastructure globally with a very software defined, I call it software defined operations model, was first of its kind. Forming of a product IP non-linear $1 billion plus software, enterprise software. We are the largest enterprise software product business headquartered out of India, sitting inside a very large HCL Technologies, HCL Tech Services. This thing, people will see the bigger one, but that creation of that, being a part of that whole journey was really amazing. So I think there's a lot of inflection points which we landed up, both again and creation of cloud native, the whole journey towards cloud native, starting to curate and build large 360-degree ecosystem partnerships. So being part of that journey at different inflection points, this is just before when COVID happened, correct? So
Yeah.
things like that. So it's a lot of learning. But I would say the way I would really put it is that you can have fear of unknown,
Yes.
but you can also have a pleasure of unknown. The question is, how do you traverse the journey from a fear of unknown to a pleasure of unknown? Because a lot of times we all want to do linear things, correct? But yeah, when you want to do different things, when the need of the hour exists, you just jump in. And one more thing in this journey in HCL is about working with a lot of amazing people, but also building amazing teams. And then one fine day, that team just runs on its own, now has its own destiny, and you go and do something different, start to assimilate a new org, new team, and it's completely new, correct, every time. So I think those are the experiences which I think you can only experience and learn. There's no way someone can do transfer learning, say you could learn around that.
Obviously, very interesting pivots that you have been through. And I think the biggest one is now taking its own shape, right? And that's because we have AI all over everything. I think I think I wouldn't be shy to say that AI is touching almost every part of human life at this point, whether you like it or not. Uh, and you have some opinions about this, right? So you talk about the fact that the foundations that businesses will require to be successful in the AI era are going to be very different. Okay, especially enterprises, and I want to start with that to begin with, and then maybe move on, to other ideas around agentic AI and software as a services for enterprises. So, if businesses are wishing to succeed, uh, in this era of AI, what are the foundations or what are the frameworks you think they should be applying to get real outcomes?
See, but you look at AI, the most foundational and most important thing AI is, can you pivot from being just a process workflow centric enterprise to becoming putting data at the center of your business? Because if you really see the power of AI, it really is amplified if you are able to, especially from an enterprise context, is if you're able to really build a data first or a data centric strategy where you're able to really catalog, discover, organize your metadata, is definition of data. So metadata management, metadata discovery, ability to understand what you have. How do you then create data catalogs, data products, very fundamental things. Keep AI out for a moment. Reimagine. We've always built applications with data hidden behind apps. We never thought of data as an independent entity. How do you provide data first? Businesses, which are consumer businesses historically, if you see some of the biggest adoption of AI, and agree to your point that consumer AI is mainstream, and I think it's a different benchmark level than enterprise AI. Enterprise AI is like way, way far behind. It's like running and trying to catch. It's consumer tech. It's like the amount of AI we are, and the reason for that is we as consumers have willing in many places compromised our privacy for convenience
Correct.
by giving access to our data,
Absolutely.
training language models, training algorithms, training agentic systems. Like every time you used Alexa, correct, and more you count words with Alexa. Even that's even before Alexa was
Yeah.
like the first virtual assistant agent, effectively, correct, which is like the
Yes.
home speaker.
Absolutely.
But you are actually, in a way, training Alexa to become more smarter, intelligent, understand language, accents, and things like that. Same thing you are using when Google, you are having voice search and other stuff.
Right.
But you were willing to give up a little bit of privacy and for a sake of convenience, correct? And consumer AI has become today the level that it is because access to troves and troves of data through which you're able to train. But obviously, the reason you have hallucinations and a lot of other things is because you don't control the quality of the data. You get what you have, but you're able to pick and learn a lot. But in enterprise, if you really want to start to make, because enterprises are designed with a lot of deterministic processes.
Correct.
Our processes are deterministic. AI, Gen AI, all different techniques finally are probabilistic. So hence you are just enough right, or this is the closest answer, correct? Ability to bring context into that this thing. It can speed up a lot of things, but hence you need to start with the data first. So data is the foundational piece.
Right.
The second thing, when I start thinking about how do I look at cyber, which is security from both from a DevSecOps standpoint, from when I'm building applications or creating data pipelines, the whole life cycle, to then running it on production, IT operations, compliance, making sure pieces, the whole cyber. And the third is how do you then apply this with the human in the loop? So we use a blueprint, call it an XDO. It's about experience, data, and operations. It's experience is where AI and human interaction happens. Very, very important. We're to start to reimagine the X. It could be product experience, brand experience, customer experience, employee experience, machine experience, doesn't matter what type of experience is it. Then data, I spent a lot of time retreading. If you don't get your data first approach, no organized catalog, and manage your data and the definition of data, it's going to be extremely hard to scale this whole thing. The third thing is operations, is about how do you apply it in ops, business ops, IT ops, cyber ops, customer. So it doesn't matter what type of IT operational role it is. And that's where the roles of the agents come in, because agents are executing certain parts of a function in a process. Then you could start to improve more and more. The quality of the operational execution depends upon the quality of data which you feed in. But yeah, when things that agents can't execute or sometimes run into testing, you have human in the loop. But how do you tie this whole piece together? So it's a whole mindset shift. Many of these companies, you'll have to go through this whole journey.
I was having a chat with Nikhil Malhotra, who is the Chief Innovation Officer and the Global Head of AI for TechM. We had him on one of our shows. And I'm going to try and build on something that he has said at that point, right? When you're looking at enterprises wanting to build by AI, one of the biggest challenges, or every approach that is suggested, is that you start with the POC, build out a proof of concept. You try and see if it's going to work or not going to work. But a lot of these don't move beyond POCs. And while we are talking about the mindset shift that you're obviously wanting to bring, how do you deal with this, right? So how do you ensure that you're moving past that POC stage into an actual full blown, maybe perhaps implementation? And why does it happen? So why are we stuck there?
I personally think there is no need to do POCs. You want to validate proof of concept of AI, go and step into the consumer world. You use more AI than sometimes you know and sometimes you don't know. Correct? There is enough AI proof of concepts or proof of value. What's very important is enterprises should really earmark on the journey of how do I become, and the reason I use an XDO example is how do I reimagine my experience, how do I put data at the center, and how do I look at my operations. Doesn't matter. You can apply XDO in your home. How can I better experience of between me and my son or me and my daughter? How do I have better experience in conversation? How do I use better data, whatever I have from home appliances or home systems, to can I improve operational aspects? You can apply XDO anywhere. So I think companies have to really look at AI is amazing, or different implementations of AI, starting from NLP, NLU, computer vision, machine learning, both supervised, unsupervised, deep learning, neural nets, and then the combination of all those start coming up with generative AI to agentic. They are all absolutely brilliant technologies. They're reaching a point in time of maturity, fairly good maturity, but how do you really apply them into your enterprise? And the only way you could do that is if you really understand your data, understand what experience am I really driving, for whom, and then how can I do more and more the end state is always autonomous, but how do you journey? I think POCs will always work, but when you start to take them to scaling, you have to bring context, and the context for enterprise needs that you need to have. In my experience, in our experience till now, I think 8 out of 10 scaling challenges are linked to data, and the balance 2 are linked to cyber compliance, security, compliance, regulatory, a lot of things. But if you organize and catalog and tag your data, then you will also found answers to cyber security compliance, because you know what data, which type, whether it is in for. So I think data is the single biggest success or failure, and for all this POCs becoming real.
There's one more thing that you've spoken about a lot, which is also a pivotal shift that's happening, maybe perhaps because of AI, or could be something that we'll start seeing as an outcome of it. Is that traditionally we've always looked as software as services. Now you're in fact saying that you should be looking at services as software, uh, which is very provocative in itself, because they've always been separate. Uh, and would love to understand, what does that really mean? Uh, and does it kind of change the accountability factor between, say, maybe, software developers or creators and software services providers?
If you step back and look at the industry historically, you had hardware systems creators, whether it was net for computing or for networking.
Correct.
You had ISVs, software vendors, and ISVs were different types of ISV: system software, middleware, application software. And then you had service providers. And these were all three were always required for an enterprise or anyone to really get value or outcome. So you had software companies partnering with systems integrator or service providers or hardware companies. Go roll the clock back 25 years back, 30 years back. It was always that. What really started to shift? You saw a shift towards what I use the word called XaaS, XaaS.
Okay.
So you had hosting providers or data center hosting companies. They say, hey, why do you need to buy and host your own data centers? Let me provide you as a service, or DC as a service. And they started to create private clouds, or then what was a big pivot point? You had these hyperscalers come in who took infrastructure, hosting, racking, stacking, providing compute services on a consumption-based model, on a utility. We have the SaaS, and because hyperscalers happened, you started to see more SaaS companies because they don't need to worry about infrastructure. Most of 9 out of 10 SaaS companies ran out of hyperscalers.
Correct, yeah.
So the SaaS model really drove you managed to get cheap compute to process hyperscale data at scale. And data created more data because you had access to cheap compute, and the same compute kept on processing and cycling. So your XaaS model reached a point where a lot of these things started to become utility. So you always looked at what is utility versus what is differentiated. So now that means that there was no different if you go back when mainframes were offered in a hosted model. Someone else offering, you just deployed applications consumed from a Brio service, a utility service. So same thing happened with data centers, hosting. So the cycle kept on moving, but more and more platform services started to get created on these cloud providers. We started to get this, and then the three fundamental laws, I would say, started: laws of economics, laws of physics, and laws of the land. So cost economics, unit economics of build versus buy, or then the issue around latency, laws of physics, correct? Light, speed. You can't centralize everything, so we try to centralize everything, we to distribute it. And the third piece which really happened was laws of the land, which is becoming a big play, which is sovereignty, data governance, data protection, IP sovereignty, digital sovereignty. A lot of things started to come in, correct? Different acts. How do you manage data? How do you make sure that data protection, all those started to happen? So XaaS reached a point in time, but you still needed the three. You still had hyperscalers who were now different kinds of tech. They were like a combination of hardware providers and ISVs and a little bit of service providers in between. But you still needed GSIs, MSPs, outsourcers. You still needed ISVs. What's happening with AI? And this whole adoption of agentic, the customer was still making or taking accountability for outcomes. Hyperscaler provided technology, service provider, GSI or outsourcer put the capability, but the customer had to guarantee the outcome because they were taking the responsibility of outcome.
Correct.
There are some segments and areas where there was people who were providing full stack outcome-based models. This was evolving. What's changing now is very interesting. The reason I use the word, I think HFS coined this word service as software. One other analyst calls it agents of action. Someone calls it agentic outcome as an agentic solution, like that. But effectively, what you're really moving is you're pivoting the model, saying there is AI, there is technology, there is software. Who will guarantee outcomes? So think of SaaS as a model where if more and more services can be codified into software, which is effectively you're putting them into what are agents? Agents. If you go back to the BPO industry, everyone was called an agent.
Correct.
And they executed an action based on a certain set of rules or tasks
Perfect.
programmed and with a workflow, and they executed a set of work, and they had escalation metrics and process. What you're doing now is if you are agentic AI or if you're agentifying certain things, you are codifying more and more intelligence into software by leveraging good quality data, and you're still executing the process. So now the question is, if you own the underlying technology,
Okay.
you would now start to give agents on top of your software products, correct? Every ISV is now shipping agents rather than shipping. So customer is going to have like an army of agents, correct?
Yeah, true.
With every product. But the outcome accountability still rests with the customer. So if you can now start to look at a model, think of software or technology builders, they're all focused on delivering value via functionality.
Okay.
I deliver functionality, features, my software version A, version B, I keep giving you features. You still have a service provider in between who makes the software fit for purpose for an end customer. That's why they do configuration, customization, tweak it for value, and make it work for a customer. If more and more of that services work can be codified into the software stack, you now are moving towards a model that when you are buying SaaS kind of a construct, you're consuming software, it will change the way technology is delivered, consumed, and commercially modeled. So there are three things in services software. One, how do you build it? Is it built around intellectual property which you own? So you're no more billing people or services, you're billing for intellectual property or the platform. So you basically take products and put them into platforms. You create a completely integrated human in the loop model,
Okay.
which means I'll deliver you capability, and if it needs people to augment and get that, I'll provide you that. And the third, historically, people build consulting hours, people manage services in a different metric. They build software in a different metric.
Yeah.
Software is you sign up to a contract, you pay for the money upfront, or on a subscription model, you're committed to the contract.
Correct.
And then you still pay the service provider. So it will also change the way you account, invoice, commercially model this with the customer. So SAS is not just another way, it's completely fundamentally resetting. So hence it's going to create a new playing field.
Okay.
Large services companies have ability to build capability at scale, understand complexity. Product companies understand IP, depth, building stuff in a repeatable model at scale with a customer success oriented mindset. But it's two different. One is you have lesser number of people, but repeatable, scalable product. The product management, partner management, ecosystem discipline comes in the product world. You have practice management, center of excellence, capability building in the services world. These are two different, completely different worlds. But when SAS is going to force them to think in a different way, now the question is, who will take pole position in the race? It's a big opportunity for companies which own intellectual property and understand services to be able to pivot and start to create alternate models. We think HCL Technologies, HCL Tech, along with HCLSoftware, has a unique position because you have a very scalable IP-led business on one end, which is non-linear. And you've got a very large organization which understands complexity, scale, global delivery, global client management, sustain way to deliver. So there's a unique ability for us to explore certain things. So it's something which is worth incubating. I think the power of AI will help reimagine some of these pieces. Our CEO and MD keeps talking about this, that the fundamentals of the services model is going to shift. And he's been quite public and vocal about in this. But I think the way I really see the shift happening is if you have a software core and you start reimagine your services with IP and software in the center, there's some very interesting business models will start to emerge where you can start to assure outcomes to the end customer.
But so, do you think this is going to be an industry-wide shift, or do you think this is going to be unique to certain sets of enterprises or verticals or industries?
It's a shift. It's going to take the next 3 to 5 years,
Okay.
but the shift will force companies to reimagine and think how they want to operate, what is core, what is context. You will create, so all these companies which were partnering with each other will also start to compete with each other. So you'll end up in a co-opetition world.
Hmm.
I call it a co-opetition. You'll compete and cooperate
Hmm.
because everyone is building that incremental value. So it's the question is, who does the customer see the best value of making the, what do you call, the feature of one? We call it the feature of one. Can I take a software product which is built for 1,000 people, 1,000 customers, but contextualizes to a feature of one so that every customer feels that they have something unique? And that feature of one, we call it F1 or feature of one model, which allows the ability to take software IP, which is globally repeatable at scale, but make it contextualized for every customer. And that's where the power of agentic and AI technologies will really come in, because you don't need a lot of people to contextualize. You need lesser, smarter people who can really, and there are different models. Some companies call them forward deployment engineers, some we call them feature of one, some other companies think of this like engineered extensions. But ability to take a repeatable, scalable software product and build platform. So one of the most abused words in the industry is platform.
True.
Products are products. Products have their own product life cycle. They have a viability. They run their own life cycle. I think the value of platforms come in when you take products, infuse capability, which is human and repeatable. And that's where I think these platforms will become services software. Services software will become platform based consumption and delivery models,
Interesting.
which the customer would consume, and the products will be abstracted or part of a platform. But and the platform value comes in when the customer, when whoever is the platform creator, will be able to wire services capability into that software platform. And now with the power of agentic AI, you can build more and more. So you will still need human in the loop. You still need that services mindset. And a very important thing, traditionally software companies have more contract and lawyer conversations compared to services. Services businesses have very much customer in the center with empathy. Software is all IP product, this thing. So finding that blend of how do you bring the empathy in the core of how you deliver products and platforms to the end customer, that will determine, in my opinion, who will win the race. Because customers still need the understanding and empathy, but who can then scale it? It's a very it's more than a concept. It's happening. We're doing this for certain customers. We are seeing it pivot, but it's a big mindset shift, both from a customer buyer standpoint as well as later. It's just a both side shift. It's not a one sided shift.
No, the way I look at it, I think purely from a software as or XAAS as you call it, I think in itself, I think it's not more than about 2 decades, and because up until then, I think everybody just focused on their own domains, and if this is the melting pot that it's going to come to, uh, and I think if businesses are able to figure out how to, I think the word that you use is co-opetition, right? Is that the right word? If I have it correct,
Cooperation. Yep, yep.
co-opetition. I think this is going to be a very interesting space to watch out for. And I'm glad you guys are already seeing some results and trying to change that perspective with your clients as well at HCL. And I want to kind of now take this conversation a little ahead. Because when things like this are going to keep happening, uh, including the whole AI piece that you've discussed, I'm assuming there is also a lot of pressure in terms of regulatory pressures, or there could be this entire pivot around businesses shifting their needs. Uh, And at the core of everything, like you said, you talked about empathy, but I would love to talk about people as well, right? Because it's the people whom you're working with, who you're delivering your services, who need to be, for whatever reasons, need to be kept aligned and motivated. And there's so much talk around agentic AIs and many other technologies trying to replace them. And in this time of disruption, I think there is something that needs to be spoken about. How can one look at this entire piece? So, how do you keep the culture in play while so much disruption is happening?
See, it's a very, we are in a very interesting time. See, if you look at this industry for the last more than like 20, 25 years, the demand cycle has always been like outstripping the supply. Correct. But what's happened is a couple of things have started to change. See, technology is everywhere, it's pervasive. Everything is a tech enabled business now. Tech is wired into the business. So
Correct.
the tech competency itself is getting completely distributed into every domain and every. People used to have specialist designers before who were only operating specific software products. Now everyone knows how to use a lot of this thing. It's getting like embedded into everything what we do in our daily life. Before, if you go back, we used to have people used to come to work because they had better tools at work. Now I think we put work, the workplace tools are poorer than the consumer tools which you have at home, correct? In terms of digital technology, few things matter. See, people, I think leadership here is leaders have to really, in this pivot, need to demonstrate a couple of things. One is the way we structure and operate organizations. You'll see a lot of delayering, or you need lesser layers in the org, because you'll need more people with a lot of individual or small squad or small group competency will be able to do a lot more things. That's one. So hence your org operating model would change. A lot of this agentic conversation is impacting. Oh, the entry level roles will get impacted. We are hiring, but I think there is a very important factor that it's also going to impact how middle level roles are emerging, or leaders. So like AI, you need, it's like another good tool, but you have to find ways to apply that into how you can use it.
Yeah.
Right? People core skills, and always go back to ability to continuously learn, continuous learning, ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn. You have to keep changing your habits, curiosity, being curious, persistence, and grit. So these are very character traits. Now, where do you find them? You find a lot of them in people who played a lot of good standard sport in their early days in their life. People who, yeah, because if you start playing decent standard any sport, correct? You play any kind of sport, you learn a lot of these things, correct? Ability to adapt, ability to be persistent, having a lot of grit, learning to win and lose, ability to change into different roles. So I think a lot of our industry has been very much structured in a status quo kind of a model with a little bit of changes. I think it would need a fund. It's about people adapting. That's going to be very important. And leaders have to really be able to communicate and be able to help the people transition or shape into the new world. You'll also see a big chunk, a lot of the workforce is also going through their own evolution, correct?
Yeah.
You'll see a lot of new talent coming in. They'll have a very different way of thinking. Some of them would be AI native.
Absolutely.
They would understand some of the things. So I think it's going to be a journey, but I think having those core characteristics will really, really help.
I want to talk about the AI middle managers, because I think there's a lot of, I would say maybe the shift or the fear mongering. It's the entry level jobs that everybody talks about, but I think the whole agentic AI, perhaps, and I want to talk about this a little because I wanted to cover this as a part of my newsletter, which I run, and I just figured that I think AIs aren't just co-pilots anymore. I mean, I believe there are companies today who are quietly using AI agents, to run workflows or maybe prioritize tasks, or even manage stand-ups. In fact, earlier in the day today, I was going through Microsoft Copilots, agents that they have launched, and I could see a Scrum Master there. I could see everything, from a management perspective. And I think Notion, also launched something called a Q&A very recently.
Yep, yep.
Uh, and I mean, what's going to happen to the managers that are in play today?
World is not going to flip in a switch in one day. Again, going back to the complexity of what we have in large enterprises, correct? Tangled web of the systems, very complex distributed data model, understanding of context. As the technology evolves, you would need the net new incremental addition of people. That is going to, on that skill type, will slowly start to flatten out and it will go through that. A lot of the people in the current roles have a lot of context and experience and wisdom, but they would need to pivot to become more better. Like you still have AI scrum masters, you can offload some of the tasks. So now I could do more
Right.
as an individual. So because on the other end, you see the number of applications being built, agents being created, number of data pipelines being, you would need the same skill. Orchestrate, define, set up an agent, set up a set of agents, manage the data pipeline to feed an agent, make sure there's agent governance, guardrails, and then they'll still have. So you would need those skills, but obviously the ratio. See what's happened till now in IT operations industry, in infrastructure operations, network management, IT operations, cloud management, automation has been significantly being done at scale. It's now hitting the application development, coding, design, UX, that part of the world in a sizable way, which never had that level of automation impact just in before. BPO industry has gone through this whole thing. They had people with agents, they had RPA coming in at a higher scale. A lot of things tasks got automated or built around, but then that thing industry keep evolving. So I would say it's all about people evolving into this. Every layer has to be reimagined in this whole process.
All right. So, if you were to just give me five, say maybe key points that qualities people need to embed as this industry is evolving, which would those five be?
The first thing is continuous learning.
Okay.
Second is curiosity. Be curious, understand. Third is adaptability. If the old ways are only tried and tested, then that might not work. The fourth is you have to have persistence and grit. And the fifth very important thing is empathy. I would say that's a very first important thing. If you look at these are the five very essential things one needs to have. Very, very important to be able to pivot into this world.
So, KK, we've covered some powerful insights today. We've talked about leadership. We've talked about AI. We've talked about services as software. Some of these I'm personally looking forward to, and we would love to kind of keep having these conversations as we move along. But for today, we would love to kind of get to know a little more about you as a person. There's that human behind the tech, behind the title. So the next segment that I have for you is a fast-paced segment. Short questions, short answers, quick rapid fire. To know the real human behind all of this tech. Let me know when you're ready and we'll go for it.
Yep, sure.
Coffee, tea, or something else that fuels your mornings?
So I drink coffee since morning and then afternoon I switch to tea.
If you weren't in tech, what career path would you have chosen?
Good question. At least 3, 4. When I was starting, I wondered I was like a semi-pro cricketer. So I could have worked for railways or something. I would have been playing cricket. I don't know where would I have reached. I wanted to be in the territorial army from there. Sort of, I would say I would have been a sports person or who would have landed up being in the forces or could have become a musician. I don't know. Like this could be 3 different ones. So
talking about cricket, is there any specific memory that always makes you smile?
Quite a few. Like both from my playing career, getting like the highest I got was 6 per. And I got was like the last 3 I got in a single over.
Oh, nice.
Like, that was not a hat trick. It was 1, 3, and 5. So it was like funny. So that. But in the recent memory, I think the recent oval test. whenever I get it. But that was like amazing. It's like it's recently etched in, but it's going to be etched in our memory for a long period of time.
Absolutely.
Because it's the best example of being belief in oneself and persistent and grit. Having the belief that I could walk in the morning and grab 4 wickets for like 25 or something. It's like unimaginable, correct? It's like, yeah.
What's the first app that you check when you wake up, non-work?
I don't check anything when I wake up.
Good. I think that's the best thing.
The only thing which I read after first thing is I read news. So I would check BBC app and I'll check the Apple News
the
app.
BBC app or the news app that you would look
And happen, get a sense of what's happening. So, and then slowly then figure out the other pieces.
Got it. Favorite city to recharge outside of work?
Favorite city? I would say I would say recently it's like London. Generally, if you're not busy working, and if it is summers, there's an amazing thing to do in and around London. But or else, I love places which are like far off.
Okay.
New Zealand is something which I really appreciate. The parts of New Zealand is amazing.
Nice. One Indian dish you miss the most when you're traveling abroad?
Yeah, I think unless until if I go to Korea, Japan, or something, even there you could find Indian food now.
Yeah.
I think Indian food is very global than what people imagine.
True.
For me, I don't. It's a good question. I eat it pretty much. I've never had this thing. But good dosas are something which you will hardly.
Nice.
There's a lot of fake dosas, correct? The real dosa is like very hard to find in my view.
Absolutely. I was on a lighter note. There's this gentleman who sells dosas is it in New York, and he went viral. And everybody made a YouTube video out of it. And I looked at his dosa and I said, as an Indian, I disagree. And yes, good dosas are hard to find. But anyways, moving on. What's the first tech gadget you ever owned?
Yeah, when I was very young, I think a Commodore 64.
Oh,
yes.
I think for a lot of our audiences, they perhaps didn't know what that was.
Yeah, I got that in early 90s. Yeah.
Okay. One piece of tech that you think will be obsolete in the next 10 years?
I think tech never gets obsolete. They just transform.
Okay.
So you might say I had messaging app. So BlackBerry as a device is vanished, but it's morphed into a bunch of applications on your phone. Tech transforms. I would say, I think there'll be some very amazing stuff in visual computing, in my view, which can really change and transform a lot of things which we have. Maybe I suspect the keyboard and the mouse, I don't think it'll exist in the next 10 years. You might have a mirrored keyboard and a mirrored mouse completely integrated, or it will become more visual and conversational, because more and more conversational applications improve. The need to type and move a mouse could be the one which could really get impacted.
Because I think the way Meta is doing things on gesture, I think the same way I think Apple's trying to do with I think there's a lot that's about to get displaced. And one last before we let you go, if your colleagues were to describe you in one emoji, what would it be?
I would say energy.
Great. That brings us pretty much to the end of the show. KK, this has been a fascinating conversation. Thank you so much for your time today. There's a lot of things that you've given us and our audiences to think about. Obviously, it was great to know about your journey, your pivotal shifts, some of the leadership philosophies that you bring to the table. Personally, I found it very inspiring and deeply insightful. And sometimes, one of the analogies you talked about was the sports analogy, and the skill set that you take away from if you've been a sports person. The ability to bounce back is something that I resonate with a lot. So thank you so much once again, really, for joining us. Any parting words?
Thanks for having me, Vikram. It was amazing talking to you, and I think I like the way the interaction was very candid, very free-flowing.
Great.
And look forward to interacting with you even more. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe on YouTube, Instagram, or your favorite podcast app. Catch past episodes and more at techdogs.com. See you next time.